Hey, check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up.
It's the local Gridiron on Road Co. Radio. Joe Dexter, David Woods, Jay Ramey, Jonathan Hatley as we talk the second season. Oh, and Charlotte Woods as well with us here this beautiful, beautiful Monday. How y'all guys doing, and are you ready for playoff football?
Absolutely. I'm doing good. I'm been ready for some playoff football because there's one destination we're going to be going to, and you can see that right there, and I can't wait. I'm ready for it.
Two teams in the playoffs here locally. Before we start talking about the playoffs and the first round coming up on Friday, we want to share our thoughts and prayers with the Trooper Wright and his family on this tough day. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Wright family and what's going on with their situation. Our thoughts and prayers, and we look forward to football on Friday. Moorhead at Shelby as we break down both teams and we take a look at both matchups heading into this Friday. We got pairings in the 2A West. It's the top two seeds versus the bottom two seeds. Number 31, Moorhead at 2-8, taking on Shelby at 8-2. RS Central at 4-6, the 32 seed, taking on top seeded Reidsville. Our first topic, our first discussion de jour. It's been a hot topic on those social media pages. Should a team be able to opt out of the playoffs without any binding circumstances? As we know, with Reidsville, they were set to take on Madison. They opted out. Now there's some binding circumstances there with the hurricane, and it makes sense there. Newton Conover, we don't know any team situation, so I don't want to say that we know, but they also opted out of the playoffs. My first question tonight, should teams be able to opt out of the playoffs? We'll start with you, David.
Well, it just depends on the circumstance, to be honest with you. Sorry. You know, the hurricane thing that really happened and devastated, you know, the western part of North Carolina, I think that's definitely, you've got to let that be excused for sure. I mean, other than that, like once you get in, I just feel like, to me, if I was a head coach, I mean, you would want your kids to experience something like that. I mean, even if you've finished a 2-8 or, you know, won a couple of games here and there, and you might know for sure, hey, I'm going into this game and I'm going to get blown out. Just the experience of being around each other and being around your guys and, you know, keeping it a tight-knit family atmosphere. I mean, it just to show what they have for the future, especially for the young guys. So with me, I mean, unless it's something that's really devastating, I just don't see it, honestly.
Jonathan, I've been waiting all day to hear your opinion on this.
Well, with Madison, you know, I understand the circumstances. That area was just ravaged by Hurricane Helene. And, you know, for them to not want to travel 3.5, 4 hours, however far away it is, to come up and, you know, they got bigger problems. They really do. I can definitely understand the circumstances there. From some of the stuff I've gotten, Newton Conover, They have a lot of injuries just plaguing their squad. Um, whether that's true or not, I don't know. As a former coach, um, I would want my boys to experience the playoffs. You know, even if you have to go in with a less than 100% team. And as a player, I God, if I was playing for that team right now, I would be so mad. I would be hopping mad. Um, I think that's unfair to your players is my biggest thing. Especially the seniors. They had a chance to get one more game in, and that's been taken from them because the coach or the athletic director or whoever decided, no, we're not going to play.
Go
I
ahead,
think
Jay.
you should take into account the team's record. Like, in what world would Reidsville just forego the playoffs because they had a few guys dinged up with injuries? So I think there's already too many teams in the playoffs. I think there should be a threshold of you have to be at least 500 to make the playoffs, in my opinion, because the playoffs are to crown a champion. And if you're, I mean, do we really think that a 4-6 team is going to go all the way? And also, it just increases risk of injury for players. So I don't think, like we did our interview with Eric Teague, I think it was week 9, and he was like, yeah, well, we're treating this as the halfway point of the season because we usually go 16 games. I think that's too much for a high school player playing an NFL amount of games. So I think we should cut the playoffs back, the amount of teams, at least.
Here's my thoughts on it. The overall record thing is something like, can we make it so teams that don't want to travel don't have to, like, take Michigan for example. Michigan is the Michigan High School Athletic Association. It's a 6 wins, so over 500, you're automatically qualified for the playoffs. Everybody 5-5 gets considered, and if you're under 500, you're probably not making the playoffs. Though, I want to get the coach's perspective on this, David. Football's a little bit different in the fact you're playing 10 games, so an under 500 record, there's going to be a decent 4-5 team that deserves to be in the playoff, right? There's going to be some 3-win teams that maybe deserve, depending on circumstances. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong, and I think it's kind of disingenuous too, even though I'm the host and I brought up this subject. See what I'm doing? Just calling my own self disingenuous. With all the realignment that's going to happen, this conversation's probably going to have a whole different outlook, but it's just, I don't know how you handle it either. I just don't understand when you look at the breakdown of the amount of teams in the 2A West, for example, and you're trying to get a threshold of wins, or you just have to pick the team that has the better opponent's winning percentage all combined in a conglomerate. There's no winning way to do it.
Well, I think what bothers me too is I really think the NC, whoever they are, they need to really look at these brackets. So you look at RS Central, they're going to be traveling to Reidsville. All right. And then you look at Moorhead, that's going to be traveling to Shelby. So RS Central is 40 minutes away from Shelby. You got Moorhead that's 20 minutes away from Reidsville. I mean, the logistics part of it, I mean, this isn't college. This isn't like they've got a ton of money just to throw around and say, hey, well, we got enough money for these tour buses and all that other stuff. I mean, is there a way that maybe you call these guys and be like, look, can we swap? I mean, that's 31 and 32 right there. I mean, it's not much difference. It's not much difference in who you're playing either. I mean,
Better yet, if you made it seeded, kind of like how the NCAA does it in basketball or in baseball, where it's like you could be seeded 1 through 8, so that there's some flexibility. So a 1 seed will play an 8 seed, but it will be based off of how close they are. And I think it's still fair to the competitors. If you had, so say Moorhead was an 8 seed and Reidsville was a 1 seed, because that's how they would fall, then you would have Reidsville face Moorhead automatically.
Yeah, but I'm looking at it as far as a travel standpoint. And as far as money wise standpoint, I mean, you're looking at 2A schools who are small schools that some of them can't afford to throw out money like this right there. And just,
Right.
with travel buses and all that kind of stuff, that's a lot of expensive stuff you got going on. But I mean, I just don't understand, you got Moorhead traveling all the way to Shelby. That's going to be a 2 hour and 45-minute drive for us. And then you got Central, who is 40 minutes away from Shelby, traveling back up to Reidsville, another 2 hours and something. I mean, it just something's not hitting right there.
That's the balance of fully depending on a computer system versus fully depending on a user system. And when in reality, you would hope that you'd have a balance of both. I mean, hashtag common sense. I mean,
And it'd be more fun because we'd have more to debate about. If there was a selection committee, we could have Hatley overturning tables and stuff. It would be fun. I'm telling you. We need some more content. That would be easy.
I mean,
right there.
They've got 15 conferences that they're choosing from in 2A West. So your conference champ is going to qualify for the playoffs. There are conference champs out there that don't have a chance in where of beating West Stokes or Walkertown. Do you keep West Stokes or Walkertown out of the playoffs for these conference champions if you cut it down? That's my only issue with it. Because you've got good teams that would not be qualified for the playoffs if you cut the field down.
Yeah, I will agree to that.
Or
are there too many conferences? I mean, I know they want everybody to play round robin, but it's just.
I mean, but next year with all this different, classes, I mean, that's going to change a lot of things, right?
Next year's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah.
Hadley, we want people to continue listening to us next year. It's going to be great, folks.
I mean,
1,000 points of light, 1,000 points of light.
You got to understand. You got to understand what I'm saying about disaster. You're talking about the top 25 schools in the state as far as enrollment are going to make up the 8A. Okay, and they're going to be spread all over Forsyth County, Mecklenburg County, Wake County, Guilford County, and that's going to be where the majority of those 8A schools are from.
Well, they probably have enough money to handle the hit, right?
You would hope so.
I mean, athletic budgets. These schools are depending a lot on booster funds to fund these athletics. It's not like the state is funding this stuff.
Yeah.
See,
for the most
me,
part.
every
basketball
other
probably be difficult because
basketball
for all sports.
Basketball would actually be simpler, way simpler.
Really?
And all the other sports outside of football would be easy because all you do is you draw up districts and you have certain teams in districts, and that's how it goes. You win your district, you move on. And those other sports, that's how it's done in a lot of other states as well. But for football, it's a different animal. There's always going to be travel in a state like ours, though. I mean, I'm just going to put that out there, and especially when you're talking 1A and 2A schools. The reclassifications, though, are going to be key, especially for our local teams, I feel like, in putting us – it could be where some of our teams – stay in where they are, which I think the Mid-State 2A Conference, David and I have talked about this on broadcast before. I'm sure you guys have too. Perfect logistically wise, I think it's a really good conference. We're
really is.
Nowhere than an hour from anybody, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. So, and that's for every single team. It's very centrally located. For the other schools, take Rockingham County, for example, they could fall into a Greensboro type area like they are now. They could fall into an area where they're taking on Alamance County schools. They could they could go all over the map. So it's really a tough thing to discuss, but it's an even tougher thing to figure out. Yeah. It might be more difficult than RPI.
Looking at enrollments, McMichael.
Sorry.
Well, no, with the it's all based on student enrollment. Right now, McMichael is one of the top as far as enrollment 2A schools in the state. They're probably looking at moving to 4A.
Yeah.
With God knows who. And Rockingham is above them. They're probably going to wind up 5A. And you got your Dudleys that right now they're 3A. They're probably moving up to 6, maybe 7.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
These numbers are too large. I can't do this. We need like 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B.
I think what needs to happen
2A or not 2B?
That's been
that is
done
the question.
Before. I think
that's been done before, Jay. It used to be 1A, 1AA,
yep,
2A, 2AA, etc.
Why do we even have the letter A after it if we're going up to 8?
It's just a classification designation. It doesn't mean anything.
It's a quagmire.
That's what I'm saying, Hatley. Like, what if they had A1, B1, C1, D1, and then it just kept going? I don't know.
All right. Well, look, Joey Dan Campbell, I'm going to tell you this.
I mean, you could call it Division A, Division B, all the way down to Division H if you wanted to.
Yeah.
We got to fix this RPI stuff first. I get the classifications, okay, but the RPI stuff, I don't know what to think anymore. I really don't. I mean, I really don't.
The positive with the RPI is it's going to get better teams in the playoffs because that's what's going to get your Walker Towns, your guys that finished third in a tough conference. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to get them in.
Yeah.
And Walker Town could go out and beat Madison by 60 points.
Yeah.
We are really beating up on Madison today.
Poor Madison.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, they were going to be the 32 seed.
Supposed to be the designated team we go to whenever we want to make an example of a bad team.
The point of the matter is, what Jonathan's saying is the top tier of the bracket, the top half of the bracket is always going to be major steps above the bottom half of the bracket. It's just how it unfolds
absolutely
in a division like that.
Yeah.
Let's go to the comments here for just a second. Mike, my friend Mike in Houston says, sounds like districts need reviewed. That's on the way. The kid's audio is horrible. I told you, Jay. But yeah, Mike was saying that's how it is in Texas, that districts, you start playing districts and you play teams closer to yourself.
Oh, Texas high school football is ridiculous.
That's
their
a whole
classifications.
That's a
you're traveling 2 hours for conference games.
Of course, they got all this right here, baby.
Oh yeah, I mean they're paying their coaches 6 figures.
Yeah.
And finally, Mike in Houston, can we require that Joe stops wearing trash on camera? I'll bang a trash can, Mike.
I like it.
Detroit.
What are you, an Astros fan, Joe?
No, but Mike is.
All right, does this sound better?
Oh no,
much better. Oh, so. I also want to shout out Melita in the comments she had a good point. Human interaction would be nice in playoff selection process.
Why would you not want to do something like that? I mean, that could, I think that would be fun. Just sitting down, as a group talking about different football teams. I mean, I would love to do something like that.
David just wants a good scan.
I mean,
to talk about.
You're talking sort of like how the NCAA tournament has a selection committee.
Yeah. Just sit down and we have a group and just talk about it.
Who do you put on it? That's my thing. Who do you put on it?
I have no idea.
Unbiased people like David Woods.
I would.
I mean, impartial observers who have watched teams play would be great. But how many of them are there out there?
How
My
many
guess
people
would
have
be
watched all of the teams in the state when we can barely find video on any of them?
My guess is it would have to be somebody that was a member of the NCHSAA. It couldn't just be. It couldn't be David or Jay or me. It would have to be an athletic director or representative of schools.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, they're probably just like any other agency where they've got pencil pushers that don't know a football from a soccer ball.
I love when Hatley just starts insulting people he doesn't know. It's real brave. I love it. Favorite part of the broadcast.
No, I mean it's the same. It's the same in any profession. I'm sure you've got people working there that are bean counters that don't know football.
I have no argument against that. I don't have anything that I could say that would say, Jonathan, you're wrong. I mean,
tonight's Hatley Trashers People of the Week is sponsored by We need to start selling that for next year.
See, there's so much that's up in the air that makes this discussion hard, but it also brings up the questions that need to be asked at this point. Like one question that was brought up by Joe Bryant on Twitter today, I'm sorry, X, I know, Twitter, X, whatever, brought up from high school overtime was, so if we're keeping this RPI system, take Dudley he used Dudley as an example. Are some of these teams going to have to drop some of these rivalry games that they have outside of conference to build up their non-conference schedule so that their RPI is better balanced and they get a top 5 seed?
Well, I mean, Dudley only got a 5, and that is a travesty. They are better than a 5 seed.
True. But I think honestly too, I mean, even though this is all messed up, we know it's messed up. I think in the end, I mean, it's going to play itself out anyway. I mean, we know the team is going to be there regardless. I mean, even if they have to do some traveling, I think it's
if you do get underseeded, I mean, it would be different if it was like a 24-team bracket and only a certain amount of teams got bye weeks. But if they're a 5 seed, I mean, they're probably going to go just as far. And if they don't, I mean, they lose in the quarterfinals, but they weren't going to win the title anyways.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you, Jonathan. I really do. I mean, I feel Dudley should be right there in the top 2, if not number 1, with the way they've dominated all year long.
I mean, their worst game was Eastern Guilford, and they won it 21-2.
Yeah, and Eastern Guilford's pretty decent.
But, I mean, they turned the ball over like 5 times. I don't know what was up with them because we watched them play Rockingham.
Championship teams turn the ball over 5 times and win ball games, just like my Detroit Lions.
I thought you said championship teams.
I did.
What, NFC championship appearance teams?
When's the last time the Cowboys went to the Super Bowl, Jay? Were you even born?
Don't get it
started. I mean, my parents weren't married yet. They were still children, but
I'm a Cowboys fan too, Jay. Just let it go.
I am.
Hey, I'm a Commanders fan. We've all got to fire up the VHS to watch our last Super Bowl at this point.
What's a VHS, Hadley?
Oh, man. Scott in the comments, poor Moorhead drawing Shelby 2 years in a row. Let's talk about the playoff matchups. We'll start there. Number 2, Shelby taking on number 31, Moorhead. Overall thoughts on Shelby, if any of you got to see tape, your overall thoughts. And David, we're heading out there. What are you expecting?
I'm going to tell you what, you got a 3-star athlete in Lane Farmer, who in the past 2 years has thrown 69 touchdowns to over 5,400 yards of passing. That is ridiculous. I mean, he plays football, baseball, basketball. I mean, we've seen him last year. Reedsville held him. I mean, you know, it was just a gauntlet defense that Reedsville had last year. They held him to their own. I want to see who their deep threat's going to be this time around. They don't have Zay Bridges anymore. He had 87 catches for almost 1,900 yards now. 1,900 yards and 19 touchdowns. So, I mean, I want to see who their deep threat's going to be. And plus, you know, they've got not just one receiver anymore. They've got multiple receivers that he can facilitate the ball to. So we'll see what happens. I know they're very athletic. They're going to be tough. They're always tough, but we'll see what happens. As far as Moorhead goes, if I'm Coach Martin right now, I'm taking a page out of Clinton's coach's playbook, the ex-Clinton coach's playbook, and I'm lining up heavy set, and I'm going Wildcat all night long. I'm going to do what I have to do. I mean, you just got to shy away from that wing T stuff, man. It's not working. I mean, you got to go.
Who do you hand it to in Wildcat, though?
Huh?
I mean,
you run.
I mean, but you got. All right, so
you know what I mean, Joe. Like, who's going to be the one carrying it?
I mean, you got
guys.
They got different sets of guys that can do that. I mean, DeQuay can do that. Let's see, you can use Townsend. You can use the transfer from Reedsville that come in.
Carter.
Braxton Carter. I mean, you've got 7 or 8 guys, Milner, that can come in and just give him rest and just let them go. Just line it up, heavy set package, let them go. I mean, you trying to keep that football away from Shelby's high-powered offense, because once you get them on the field, I've seen it in person. It's a pretty good show to watch.
I know we're not supposed to talk good things about the Golden Lions, but I want to play this back. Watch Land Farmer on this throw if I can get it to come back here. But it's going to be a lot of 4 receiver sets, shotgun formation, single back in the backfield, and all Land does is sit back there. If he's given time, he'll just wait till one of his receivers gets open. He does not care who gets open. He'll throw to. He's comfortable throwing to everybody. To me, looking down the road, and I know we don't want to look down the road, if they were to beat Moorhead, if you're looking 1 versus 2, and I'm just looking at this film, I shouldn't put this out here, but I'm excited about it. That's going to be tough to move the ball against the Reidsville secondary. Just looking down the road, I'm just saying. I'm just. That's all I'm going to say about it for now. We'll talk about it later.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, it's not like they're just one-dimensional because they've got that senior Tate. He's got 100. He's got 141 carries for 965 yards and 18 touchdowns this season. They're not a one-dimensional team.
Nope. I mean, they've got at least 4 or 5 different guys that's got almost 300 to 400 yards. Some's got, 2 of them's got about 500 yards. They facilitate the ball very well. As last year, Lane Farmer last year, man, when we went into this game, I'm like, dude, look at these numbers. He had, 42 touchdowns, 41 touchdowns to 8 picks last year going into Reidsville.
And this year it's 25 TDs to 10 picks, and he's only about a 60% completion percentage.
Yeah. And he's not a runner. He won't run.
I mean, you're playing against – their 2 losses came to AC Reynolds and Crest.
Yep.
And those teams are looking to contend to win the 3A.
Yep.
And you've got the sun in your eyes right there. It looked like some prophecy was being fulfilled on video.
You talking about Jerry Jones putting up curtains?
No. I'm talking about the giant, star.
Hey,
even though the entire sky is black, the sun's setting.
Oh, that's their Jumbotron.
It's incredible.
Hey, that's big money down there.
So David
and they got
down
3 schools right there in the immediate area that are all like that.
Absolutely.
Crest, Kings Mountain, and Shelby.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll be down there at Shelby for that ball game. We'll have the pregame show for you and all that coming up. We'll let you know at what time. Scott in the comments, mid-80s on his fastball and baseball reminds me of Tanner Wilson from Reidsville with his arm. Yeah, that's a great comparison.
That's a good comparison. Really good.
It'll be interesting to see if it gets down to that point, if he can make any adjustments against Reidsville, because, man, last year in their matchup in the playoffs, he just had a hard time being able to find anybody open.
They shut down him. They shut down Bridges. Bridges got, I think, about, 100 yards receiving, I think. Something like that. I mean, he still got his a little bit. But for the most part, man, it was absolute domination. I mean, it was a 49-14 score. Al Lee was 22 of 29 for 319 yards and 5 touchdowns, 0 picks. And he took care of business. I mean, it was just all around good football game, man. I mean, Shelby brought the crowd. Even though I think Bunker Hill was a little bit better with the crowd. I'll say that. But other than that, man, it was an absolute show. I loved the Shelby and Reidsville rivalry. I mean, they talk about who's the better title town, better football team all together, which we know it's Reidsville. Come on now. But it was fun. That rivalry was absolutely fun. I loved it.
I'll tell you, and Shelby's got a sleeper wide receiver that they better watch out for. Sophomore, Williams, number 11. Only 9 catches on the season, 236 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Half of his catches are touchdowns.
He's averaging 26 yards a catch, too.
That's a threat.
Yeah, true.
We move on to Reidsville hosting as the number 1 seed. They'll take on RS Central 4-6 on the year. The Rams 10-0 on the season. We go to Jay and Jonathan, who will be at the game. You'll bring your pregame show on Roco Radio as well. Jay, we start with you. Overall thoughts on Reidsville, what you're looking forward to seeing playoff football-wise.
I'm looking forward to seeing their secondary. Elmer Littlejohn, the quarterback for RS Central, just doesn't really throw it throw that many interceptions, but he's got under a 50% completion percentage. So I don't know if I'm going to expect as many interceptions as usual, but they've got a runner. I'm trying to check the exact number right now. His name's Harlan McIntyre. Yeah, he's got 141 carries for 1,000 yards. I'm looking for them to contain him. Obviously, there's too many weapons to name on Reidsville's side, but I expect them to do what they always do on offense, and that is score a ton of points, especially in the first round of the playoffs. I have no doubt in my mind that Reidsville takes this one and moves on.
Jonathan, anything you'd like to see?
I haven't seen any film on RS Central, but looking at these numbers, it looks like a read option, just a classic read option. Their top two rushers, you got a halfback, McIntyre, and you got their quarterback, Little John. Little John's got 103 carries for 800 yards and 11 touches. And their primary running back has 12 touchdowns. That just screams read option to me. Reidsville sees read option all the time. It's not anything. They're not going to throw anything at Reidsville that Reidsville hasn't seen. Yeah. Their big problem is they're going to have to keep Hudgens contained. Kid's got 106 tackles on the season. Their offense is facing a guy that's got over 100 tackles. That's I mean, they got so many weapons that he can't cover them all.
Believe that.
I mean, is that Aiden Hutchins that's back there?
Hudgens.
Too soon. Too soon.
But I mean, their numbers.
Oh my gosh! Okay.
Nothing on their numbers other than that. The 106 tackles for one player, and 1,000-yard rusher. I don't see anything that's particularly that gives me alarm bells going off.
Mm-hmm.
A 1,000-yard season is good for anybody. I'll take 1,000 yards out of my running back all day. And 100 and over 100 tackles on the season for one player, that's awesome. And I mean, he's probably playing linebacker.
Sometimes you can sum things up in just 3 words. Just 3 simple words. Scott does that. Rams by 40.
I like that.
I think he's being generous, only giving them 40.
I don't know. Scott will light them up too. He can talk junk to the rest of them. Oh, I don't know. I'm thinking 56 minutes. I think this will be a good test to get the defensive line fired up a little bit. Against a good half decent run team. I'm wanting to see what adjustments are made I'm wanting to see the adjustments that Reidsville makes in the run game too. I'll tell you what, the Walkertown is where, they really made the adjustments at too. They went from a 4-3 to a 3-4. They lined a defensive tackle up, right there at the center. That really worked out really good. I just want to see what the defensive line's going to do. Because the run defense has been kind of hit or miss here lately. I mean, but like Joe says, once it hits playoff time, these Reidsville boys, they take it up to a whole nother level, and it's go time. So we'll see what happens.
These past 10 games have been kind of like preseason for them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of ramping up.
Yep.
There are some questions, though.
I definitely hope that their defense wakes up, because they started off the season and they looked a little suspect.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have given up 21 points to Page.
I think Doug Mars will have him prepared. I think he'll be all right.
Oh, I'm sure he'll have him prepared.
I saw the wink. I saw the wink. It brings up, there are some questions for Reidsville, and it's been touched on a little bit. Jariel Cobb is out due to an injury sustained against Moorhead. He'll be out for the remainder of the season. From what I've heard, I haven't verified that. I will say this out front, have not talked with the coaching staff on who will replace him. One thing I will say up front as well is no matter who's in the backfield, this offensive line, what they've done this year as they continue to gel throughout the year, shouldn't make much of a difference who is back there. But as Scott says in the comments, it'll be interesting to see who's the next man up. I want to go to you guys on your thoughts on that. I think we saw a good amount from Bryson Miller in that ball game against Moorhead after Cobb left, and we've seen good things from him. The point is this, and it's quite simple. I'm not trying to steal your guys' thunder. You've got number one back there. He can run, he can throw, he can jump, he can do anything. He can set the tone for the offense, and you can use guys to set him up offensively running the football if you have to. But who would you guys like to see step up in the running game?
Who's first? All right, I'll go first.
I just want to say this first. The worst part is he was at 23 touchdowns. So, how many was he going to get?
He was on pace to break Tayon Scales' record, and he was going to go over 2,000 yards. He was not going to set the touchdown record,
at least 40 touchdowns, right?
Had they gone all the way to state, I'm figuring he had 37, 38.
Yeah, he could have been close to 40. Well, when I look at the roster right here, I mean, you got Bryson Milner. They got Brunson, 5'10", 170. They got him as a linebacker / running back. Michael Smith. You got Samu that we talked about, if I pronounced that right.
Yeah, Samalu, yeah.
Yeah. And Savion Johnson. I mean, you got 4 or 5 guys right there that could really come in and take the heat off of Deontay a little bit. I'm not saying, that's about 4 or 5 guys right there that we could really look at, I think. I mean, it's hard to replace 1,500 yards and 20-some touchdowns, but, I mean, Reedsville's got athletes, man. I mean, they've got athletes across the board. I'm not worried about that. I mean, Cobb, I still wanted him to be there because I feel like, to me, that's where their offense started. It started with him getting his touches, feeding them. And then, once they kind of sunk in as far as the defense goes, they sunk in to try to, stop the run. Then that opened up Cam Jones. Then that opened up Agent Zero. That opened up J9. I mean, plenty of different guys. I mean, I just felt like the run game is what started it all. And then from there, it was just no holds bar. You couldn't stop whatever was coming. I mean,
I've got 2 predictions for you guys, what you're going to see. All right. I have no information on this. This is just my gut and based off of what I've seen. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see a lot of J9 and Deontay Neal in the backfield. And
just like week 1 in Western Alabama.
Yeah. And you're going to have to – the defense is going to have to decide which guy to cover. Wow, there's a pumpkin on the screen. And I think that if you put J9 and Deontay in the backfield, not only can Deontay make plays in the read option, you can throw screens to him, you can get J9 out in the flats, you can do so many different things. I think that will be a way that they combat running the football if they have some issues, which are not going to in the first round. I'm not saying that, but I think we see some of those wrinkles. Because now what they have to do, guys, it's not about what happens in round 1. It's how do you use round 1 to build for round 2, round 3, and especially round 4, 5, and 6. Yep. How do you get your offense back established, and who do you go to and who do you find? I think what we'll see in this week is they're going to give everybody that they think can do it an opportunity at certain points if they can, and go from there and ride the guy with the hot hands holding the rock. So we'll see how it turns out. That's going to be one of the big storylines, I think, heading into that game. And I think the one thing that sticks out to me, I mentioned the offensive line and just how great they've been all year, and they deserve all the credit. That's number 1. Number 2 for me. Number 1, it destroys me, man, that Cobb cannot play in the playoffs. This kid is one of the best kids you'll ever meet. A top GPA, puts everything into all that he does. And that's the part that sucks. That's the part that eats at you. It's not that – for me, it's not – I'm not upset that Reedsville has to find a different option. It's that such a good kid with such a great future does not get this opportunity, man. That's the part that kills me.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I'm glad they won it last year because and it just shows how tight, your championship window can be. We talk about that for teams, but, these players, it's – an injury is so close. I mean, I know some of the running backs we mentioned, some of them have injuries. I mean, football is a hard sport to play, so you need to get that one. when you have the chance, and that's why they put their all into every play.
Is there anything else offensively you guys want to see or defensively on Friday night down at Community Stadium?
Yes. Cadence Pruitt, give him the football. Let him get some touches.
I've got my thoughts on it. And I brought it up to you guys. Galloway.
Okay.
Frankie Galloway.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could carry the ball out of the backfield and do well with it. He's got speed. He's elusive. He's a good kick returner. You know, if he can find a hole on kick returns, I figure he can find a hole in the offensive line. Whether he's got the size to pound it up the middle, you know, maybe not. But I think he would be a good option out of the backfield. But like Joe said, the J9 Deontay combo back there, you could direct snap it to either one of them, and they could run or throw.
Yeah, Neal has 7 rush touchdowns this year.
This is my dream scenario. I love the Galloway comment, and Scott does too in the comments. I love that idea. This is another thing. I'm not saying it's going to happen. If it does happen, I'm going to go nuts if I find out that it happens. You guys need to tell me. I want to see this. Agent Zero. Boom. 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 Give him some Agent Zero. Just a couple.
Man,
it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be.
I mean, why would you not want to do that?
I mean, I just love to see it.
I love it. That's why I said, too, feed Cadence Pruitt the ball a little bit as well. I mean, let him get some touches in there on the action. I mean,
you remember the old Mansfield and Widerman formation from last year?
Yeah,
put him on one side, Harrison on another.
The backfield.
Here's the problem, though.
Mansfield last year, he reminds me just like Cadence Pruitt, man. They're the same. I really don't see much of a difference. The hair's the same. They're the same, dude. I mean, they're absolutely hard-nosed football players that can go in there and take hits and give out the punishment, dish it out. I mean, I'd love to see a little bit, especially in goal line. You could get Agent Zero, Cadence Pruitt in there on goal line.
Yep.
Bam.
See,
just pound it in Riggins used to do.
That is a problem with football, though. Like, you can't – if you could see the players' faces, like, we can't see the tears rolling down the defensive line's cheeks when Kendre gets the ball.
We can see the attrition, Jay. We can see the attrition on the field. When a 6.7 monster hits you in the teeth, we can see that.
They are literally –
Sorry, I got a little crazy there. Sorry, Jay. Sorry, got a little excited.
That's okay. Just a little bit.
This is okay. I'm not a coach. I'm never going to be a coach. I'm an idiot. I wear blue Lions gear. It's all you need to know. I think that you should eat butter on your peanut butter sandwich. I'm an idiot, okay? But this is I would go crazy if I saw this in round 2, if we get to cover them in round 2, whatever, when we get to cover them in the playoffs. The Mansfield and Widerman formation set up Cobb so many times last year in the playoffs. I'd love to see that formation with Harrison and Pruitt to feed Galloway, or whoever that guy is that's the elusive back. I'm not a coach. I know I'm playing Madden right now with my friends on a live stream, but I think that'd be fantastic.
You know what's
fun? Do you think that their playoff chances of a championship decrease dramatically because of the injury to Jariel Cobb, or do you think it won't affect them?
It will affect them. I don't think it's something it's a hard one to say, but I don't think the Reidsville machine will be the Reidsville machine. Blue Death will be Blue Death till death do us part. That's the best poetry I can say about it.
The next man is going to step up. Is he going to be as effective as Cobb would have been? Probably not. But, you got 4 receivers out there, a tight end out there, and a quarterback out there that are just ridiculous athletes. I mean,
by the way, big men up
all
front,
they need
too.
a running game for.
Yep.
All they need a running game for at this point is to keep the defense honest.
True.
Let's keep it real. They could throw for 500 yards a game if they wanted to.
Can we check Does Woodsy have any eligibility left? We might be able to put him at tailback, and they could win a state title.
I just want to have the problem that Eric Teague's got. I mean, he's got weapons out the butt.
I'll tell you what, Dave. You want to play tailback? I'll play fullback. I'll block for you.
Look, I'm gonna tell you.
I'll play water boy.
This is going to be worse than the kicking game we were going to have. Oh.
We still need to do that.
I don't want no part in it. I really don't. I'm not trying to get smashed. I don't want no part of that.
David would run, and they wouldn't even tackle him. They just hit him with like a WWE clothesline. That's what they do.
True.
Literally.
I would promise. I would bet money. I think the Lions have a better chance of losing every single game than Jay has gaining more yardage running the ball in a high school game than David. I would.
That's just because I'd kneel it out.
Hey, with this bum shoulder, with this torn rotator cuff, torn labrum that I've had surgery on, I'll take it on.
Hey, they wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to hit me.
I'm the only one high school eligible here, and I talk about football rather than play it.
Oh, that's a good point. Good. Hey, they wouldn't be able to hit me. They wouldn't be able to see me. 5 foot. So that the Reidsville #1 seed overall. Let's talk about the seeding process now that we've talked about both games. What do you feel about the 2A West seeding? We'll start there and talk about that. 2A West, do you feel good about 2 being Shelby and so on and so forth?
Oh yeah, I feel like they got, for the most part, they got things right. It's going to be some teams, that Reidsville's going to run up against. I think they got a tougher bracket. I just think they do. I really do. I think Bunker Hill, there's a possibility they meet up with Bunker Hill again. Jason Willis Jr., absolute Terminator. I mean, this dude over the past 2 years has got 414 carries as a running back now for 2 years, with almost 3,600 yards and 55 touchdowns. Now, granted, last year he ran up against a defense that pretty much held it. He still had 22 carries for 100 yards and 1 touchdown, but that's a team they could definitely run up against. We'll see. What do you think, Hatley? What do you think, Ramey?
I mean, the seeding process, I was reading over it and how they do it. And, you had 15 conference champion or 11 conference champions, and 4 conferences get 2 automatic bids, and we're one of them. So you knew Reidsville and West Stokes were automatically in, finishing 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And that's well-deserved. West Stokes is an amazing football team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they gave Reidsville all they could handle in that game. They are a good football team, and them being an 11 seed, I think they're seeded too low, but, with having to work in conference champions and that kind of thing,
that's where it's
to be expected.
You look at the bracket. East Surrey is the 6th seed. They beat them. The 5th seed, Salisbury, they beat them in the regular season. That's where I get frustrated about the bracket. I get the conference.
The only team that's seeded up above them that beat them was Reidsville and Randleman. And I think if Randleman came up against West Stokes again, it would be a different outcome. Yeah.
So you want me to tell you why East Surrey's ranked higher? Them Mount Airy boys that lost. Them Mount Airy boys. That's what happened. That was a 28-7 loss against Mount Airy. I mean, them dudes, they score 70 a game every game easily. That's lightweight to them.
Where is the first game that team that we're really worried about? You play either North Surrey or East Rutherford in the second round, but then
third round, you're probably looking at either Bunker Hill or Brevard.
And are you worried about either of those teams?
They're both pretty decent teams.
I mean,
do you think Walkertown could somehow sneak out of their side of the bracket?
Do I think?
I mean, they would meet up with Reidsville round 4 if they did.
Yeah. Do you think that's a possibility?
I'm not.
Let me see who they're playing.
So they've
Surrey
got
Central. They'd have Salisbury more than likely next round, and Salisbury's a good football team.
They did
but
beat
they beat them.
Salisbury.
They beat them in the regular season.
They beat them
That's what I'm
47-33.
And then,
Well, I'll
maybe they
tell
play
you.
Randleman in the third round.
So Randleman, I think, is going to be a sneaky team. I know a lot of people say, I mean, they've been battle tested all year. They've got wins over West Stokes, Bunker Hill, Asheboro, Southwestern Randolph. That is 4 quality teams right there that are absolute tough. Me and Joe seen in person.
And then they take an L to Trinity.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Then they took a loss to Trinity, and then they went into lost a close game to Eastern Randolph, who was 10-0, 27-26. So I mean,
and Eastern Randolph is a good 1A football team.
I mean, they're
not going to beat Mount Airy, but they're a good team.
No, heck no, ain't nobody beat Mount Airy.
This is the game to watch in the bracket for me. Number 2, Shelby, and number 3, Monroe.
Yeah.
As Scott said, that's going to be a game to watch with Jordan Young from Monroe and how they spread the ball around. And Monroe's just fast.
Yeah,
fast. So, and when I watch Shelby, I'm not saying they're not fast, but they play more of a assignment football type of game. Whereas when you face a team that brings speed with opportunities that you might not see normally, I agree. I mean, it could be one heck of a ball game.
Yeah,
Monroe is going to have to survive West Stokes to see Shelby.
That's true.
That's true. So who's your sleeper out of all this? Who could be a sleeper team?
Our 2 conference teams that are not Reidsville.
Walkertown.
Oh, you're talking on the east side?
Yeah.
Oh, east side. Well, you want to talk east side? We're west side boys. I don't know what you want to talk
Wallace
east
Rose
side.
Hill. I mean, it's just teams that we're going to have to meet up with. We're going to have to meet up with
Wallace Rose Hill, White.
Hey, do you guys want to do a
Southeast Alamance?
We should do that. We need to do a bracket challenge, guys.
We should do a bracket challenge, but also invite people.
Ooh.
Okay.
But I don't know how you do that online. Is there a way to do a random custom bracket?
I don't think so.
Printyourbrackets.com.
Well,
Print your bracket.
He said it.
I mean, looking at the East, Southeast Alamance is sneaky good.
Okay.
Yep.
Wallace Rose Hill.
Yep.
Whiteville being the 2, I'm not sold on that, to be honest.
I'm not sold on Northeastern.
Neither am I.
I'm not sold on there either. Really not. Let me see right here. From what I've seen,
one thing we know from the East, there's about 4 or 5 teams that usually make it out of there, and it's always the same teams. Wallace Rose Hill, somebody from that Duplin area. It could be Wallace Rose Hill or East Duplin. They're 5-5 this year. I don't think it's them. Usually Whiteville, St. Paul's, they struggle. Northeastern can get out of there. They've done it before. Reidsville's faced them twice in the state championship game.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay.
Other than that, Southeast Alamance has had one heck of a year. They're 10-0 on the year.
Yeah.
They've outscored opponents 439 to 55. Just 59 points scored on them. They played Eastern Alamance, Orange, a bunch of other small schools, and other 2A schools that are down. So they don't their strength of schedules doesn't mean anything, but
it's not Dudley or Grimsley numbers, but it's still good numbers.
Let's go back to the West here. So there could be a possibility that East Surrey and West Stokes
play in the second round.
Second
round.
You talking about an ex-coach from East Surrey that just went to West Stokes. I mean, what kind of
in the regular season, they played in the non-conference schedule, and it was one of the best games across the state.
It was.
So, I mean, but our boys in Southwestern Randolph have a chance to knock off East Surrey.
They do? I'm telling you.
Noah Stills and company.
Come on, man. Tater time?
Are
you serious right now? We got Owen Wilhelm. You got Noah Stills, who's the quarterback. I mean, dude, they are absolutely, they are a football team on a foot. You know, they're kind of like basketball. They facilitate the football here and there, and I mean, they're just absolutely fun to watch. They're going to be a team that's tough, man. I really think so. Just watching them over the past 2 years, they're really good.
I'm going to throw another one out there.
Okay.
And this is going to come as a surprise, but, getting through the first 2 rounds through these guys, Shelby might be looking at having to play Mount Pleasant.
Yep.
I haven't seen the numbers.
And all the folks from down where my parents are from, they know that place is Mount Misery.
Oh boy.
Mount Misery.
Yeah. I'll tell you, playing at Mount Pleasant, you not want to go down there and play.
I don't have any
Shelby would face them at home.
Except for a few grunts.
What's Mount Pleasant's record? Who'd they beat?
They are 8-2 on the year, 4-0 in the 1A, 2A Yadkin Valley Conference. They have won against Carson, Concord, I can't ever say this, Cabarrus schools.
Cabarrus.
West Stanley, South Stanley, Union Academy,
North Stanley.
The other one that I can't say that Jay's dad worked at and where your mom is from.
Sound it out.
Albemarle.
Yeah.
Albemarle. That's where my mom's from too, Joe.
I know. That's what I just said. They lost to Robinson, who's a top team in 3A. So
Robinson is crazy.
Yeah. So their losses are to Cabarrus, Northwest Cabarrus. Did I say that right? Did I get it right that time?
Yeah.
And
Cabarrus.
Robinson. So.
Yeah, and I mean those are larger schools, and Mount Pleasant's sneaky good.
You never know too. Those Lincolnton schools, West Lincoln, that's who they face in the first round. They're 6-4 on the year, but you look at the gauntlet of the conference that they faced. I mean, they faced the likes of North Lincoln, Bandy's who's in the playoffs, Maiden who's in the playoffs, Bunker Hill who's in the playoffs, Newton Conover who could have been in the playoffs, and so they could be battle tested. Yep. Melita says in the comments, all of our conference teams got except one. Correct? Yes, that is correct. Your guys' overall thoughts on the Mid-State 2A, just what it's meant for these teams, and does it make them battle tested for the playoffs?
Absolutely. I mean,
yes.
We got one of the toughest conferences around, I think.
I mean, you got to run a gauntlet to play in this conference.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And, the parity from top to bottom is definitely there. But that's in any conference. You're going to have your bottom tier that's not great, and you're going to have your top tier. And in some conferences, they're not necessarily great, but they're better than everybody else. But, you got the top 3 teams in this conference that went to war with each other. All 3 games.
They did.
And it was, anybody could have come out on top of any one of those 3 football games.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We did. I mean, we got to see Reidsville and West Stokes. I mean, that was an absolute brawl. That was a knockdown, drag out. I mean, it was a physical football game. That was one of the most physical football games I had seen in quite a while. And then we had to go to Walkertown. Santana Garcia. I was talking about him the whole time. I mean, I think Walkertown goes when he goes. He had an absolute good game. What was it? 4 touchdowns to 1 pick.
Yep.
And, Jariel Cobb, he made the big stop at the goal line. I mean, just like Deontay Neal did the year before and, caused a fumble for a touchback. And,
Garcia made a lot of mistakes when they played West Stokes, and that's probably what cost Walkertown that game.
He's had hit or miss games to where, one game he'll look, absolutely good. Like, oh, man, maybe they can make some noise in the playoffs. And then the next game, you're like, who is this guy?
He's another young quarterback.
He's a young quarterback, and he's only going to get better with the coach that they've got in Walkertown. He's a very nice guy. Me and Joe got a chance to really speak to him and talk to him. He knows what he's doing, man, and he got a lot of kids back. And that program really could have struggled this year, but he kept it together. He brought those.
And their OC is local, right? Isn't it their offensive coordinator, or is it their line coach?
Coach Tatum, yep. He's the line coach and offensive coordinator. Yep. Graduate of McMichael High School.
From Madan.
So yeah,
I think it was.
And Coach Honeycutt's doing great things there at Walkertown, and that's the thing that we talked about too with Coach Honeycutt is you look at the coaches in this conference now. You're talking a lot of experience,
a lot of goats,
yes.
A lot of goats,
insane amount of experience, and good support staff as well. I mean,
that's the thing. That's a key part of it.
Reedsville, they're a machine. You know, you've got offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach, all the way down. You know, they are a well-oiled machine, even the coaching staff.
Yep.
I mean, it's, you know, other schools are trying to get coaches from them.
Yeah. Coach Lohman at West Oaks has Coach Witt, who's could be a head coach, and several other coaches with coaching experience at high levels. So you see it all across Walkertown with the good coaching staff, and they match up. And that's the fun part about Friday nights in our conference is no matter the quality of the team, for the most part, you're going to see a good coaching matchup. You're going to see they're going to come to the table getting their team prepared the best way they can to try and attempt to beat the other team.
And just watching some of the adjustments week after week.
That's the fun part
that these coaches make, man. It's absolutely awesome. I mean, you know, just watching, you know, Doug Morris go from a 4-3 to a 3-4 and pretty much start shutting down the run. You've seen the West Stokes coach. He made adjustments, man. He went straight run after that. I mean, was just lighting Reedsville up on the defensive line, man.
Even when it doesn't work, like McMichael, watching them switch up their offense multiple times this year, that was fun to watch.
That was fun to watch. I mean, you know, we thought, man, here they are going to run this old school wishbone, and then here they go switching it up, going to shotgun and doing different things. I mean,
wishbone, run and shoot,
it was fun.
Wildcat,
Wildcat.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, that's having to make adjustments due to personnel issues with injuries and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of thing that wasn't a experiment. That was more of a, we got to do this.
That's true.
But, you know, with watching Reedsville's coaching staff adjusting, you know, going from the one high safety to going to a 3-4, that type of thing. And, you know, they coach them at all of this. You know, it's not like they just run one defensive formation the whole practice. They're working on the 3-4. They're working on the 4-4.
Yep. It's true.
Now, I'll bet Reedsville could come out in a 5-2 if they wanted to.
And that would work. That would work.
or even a 3-3.
Yeah. Now we're getting into Big 12 football. Then we don't want to get into that. we get into Big 12 football when it goes to the 3-3.
Hey, Air Force ran a 3-3 defense for a long time.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this season. I didn't realize Air Force had a defense this season.
They don't.
Oh,
they didn't have an offense before Fresno State either.
It's the local Gridiron. Make sure you check out where we will be. You can find out more details on kickoff, pregame shows, start times, and so much more at facebook.com/Radio Rockingham. Before we head out of here, I've got one last question I want you guys to ponder and think about, okay? 2A West bracket, the semifinals. Could Reedsville match up with Walkertown in the semifinals, and then could they match up with West Stokes in the finals? Is that a possibility? Could you see that happening?
Well, Joe, your picks were so bad in college and NFL that you dropped out. So I don't know if we should take hypotheticals.
Could it mathematically happen? Yeah, it's lined up to where it could.
Hear me out, okay? Hear me out.
Here we go.
West Stokes takes on North Force. Yeah, it's possible.
It's possible.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's in the realm of possibility. And I think West Stokes, and if Walkertown plays up to their potential, they're good enough to see Reedsville in round 4. And West Stokes is definitely good enough to make it to round 5.
Yep.
Here's the bracket. So this is what we'll start with what Walkertown would have to do. So Walkertown would have to beat Surrey Central on Friday. Then they would have to beat the winner of Salisbury and West Davidson to get to that next round.
Salisbury's going to be a test.
Yep.
And then they'd have to face the winner of Forest Hills, Lexington, Randleman, and East Gaston.
Yep.
So if the seeding
and that's going to be Forest Hills or Randleman.
Yes.
Do we think it's going to be chalky at all? Or do you think a lot of lower seeds are going to be the higher seeded teams?
I think once you get to the second, third round, you're going to see some upsets.
Hear me out from Joe means here comes some malarkey.
Yeah.
Some crap.
Trust me, Michael, I deal with them week on, week out. So I know all the you-know-what that comes with it.
So West Stokes would have to beat North Forsyth, then the winner of East Surrey, Southwestern Randolph. That sets them up with the winner of Burns, North Stanley, and Monroe, T.W. Andrews. So basically, to me, it's if West Stokes can get past Shelby and Monroe, they have a chance. That's a tough task to ask.
All right, I'm just going to go old school here. I'm throwing all that out the door. It's going to be Reedsville and Shelby back at it again. That's what it's going to be.
Okay.
No holds bar. That's what it's going to be.
If I had to predict, it's going to –
I want to see Reedsville and West Stokes.
It could happen. I mean, it's just
I think West Stokes has the talent and the size to compete with anybody.
Reedsville just doesn't seem like the team that if you play them twice, you do better in the second game.
That's true.
That's true. I will agree.
That's the difference between a lot of teams and West Stokes is their coach is going to make the adjustment.
That's true, too.
That offensive line, man.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. He sees Randleman again, which they're on different sides of the bracket, so it would be in the semifinal, and Reedsville would be out. But if he was to see Randleman again,
they'd beat him.
They beat him.
No doubt in my mind. I think West Stokes go ahead and they take care of them this time around if they seen them again.
Well, for that to happen, Randleman's going to have to get through the Reedsville side of the bracket, and West is going to have to win their side of the bracket.
Yeah. So that guy who gives out like $1 million if you get a perfect bracket, do you think that applies to
that guy's only just Warren Buffett, the richest man in the world?
To high school football?
Yeah.
Nah. You might get $1. I'll give you $1.
Okay. All right. It's just a $1,000 prize from Joe Dexter. Personally.
There you go. I'll hand deliver it too. That's going to do it for the local Gridiron here this beautiful Monday. We'll be on the airwaves on Friday at facebook.com/Radio Rockingham and at RocoRadio.com and on Roco Radio, the live 365 app. So make sure you join us starting, I believe, for Reedsville, it will be at 7:30 kickoff, so a 7 o'clock pregame show, and for Shelby also at 7:30, so a 7 o'clock pregame show as we make the trip down to Charlotte and listen to Willie Vanilli.
Oh, trust me. I've already scoped through where Shelby's got some good restaurants at. Oh, we stopping somewhere good and eating, buddy. I seen some good barbecue. Oh, it's going down. Milli Vanilli all day. Here we go. Let's go. Let's start round one, baby. I'm ready.
It's the local Gridiron on Roco Radio. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you Friday night.
Hey, check it. Hey, check it. Put the place up.